All right. Got a lot to pack into today's service, so I'm pulling out my phone to make sure I don't go over. Somebody told me the other day that they had when their minister went over, there was a man who sat in the front row who would start whistling Dixie. So thank goodness nobody here knows that song, right? So we'll keep it moving. Today's a communion day. If this is your first time here, help you through that, but we're going to end the service with Holy Communion today. Last week we talked a little bit about the gospel and how the gospel lived through some modern voices, voices of 50 years ago. We talked a little bit about Martin Luther King, who talked about the parable of the Good Samaritan being a dangerous unselfishness, that calls us to a dangerous unselfishness, to love our neighbors in ways that may put us in danger. Then we also spent a little time with Mr. Rogers, and if you recall, I finished my sermon with the note that we are called to look for the helpers. I think these are two really important reminders of how what Jesus was teaching those folks gathered around him then are still lessons that live here and live in today's world pretty profoundly. It kind of comes to light here in this next video that brings to light long after Mr. Rogers is gone, how his message is still important. Take a look at this.
Having the right neighbor in the right place at the right time can make all the difference. Just ask Steve Hartman.
Whenever evil claims a victory, as it did in Manchester, people search for words of hope. And this past week, that search led many back deep.
Mr. Rogers reminds us that good outweighs evil 1,000,000 to 1. What a beautiful reminder of what it looks like to truly be a good neighbor. Now, I'm going to remind you of our text, the Good Samaritan text, and the one verse that we want you to take with you as we move throughout the week. Let's go ahead and read it together. This is Jesus. He answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind. And love your neighbor as yourself." A beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day for a neighbor. Could you be mine? Would you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? That's so perfect. You didn't know that was in the gospel? It's in the gospel. It is so much in the gospel. We're going to make it gospel. We're going to read it all together again. Let's do it again, Matt. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Okay, maybe not. That's it. All right. He answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind. And love your neighbor as yourself." Come on, let's hear it. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day for a neighbor. Could you be mine? Would you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Listen, you're singing it. I love it. That could be gospel, because that's really what the Good Samaritan story is all about. Now, last week, remember, I encouraged you not to read the text. We didn't even include it in the bulletin because I wanted to read it to you so that you could hear it, because that's how it was originally shared. People were listening. The Good Samaritan looks like in this culture today. Take a look. So here is a confession of sorts. Your pastor saw that video and went, "Oh, please. We are not going to use this video, are we? I mean, come on, the white guy getting beat up in the middle of the night. Is that really realistic? And then the two white people doing good things. Is that really realistic? What labels are we going to put on these people? And then the refugee, the woman of color, what about her? I have to be honest, I was so cynical. And then I said, why are we putting these labels on people? And I went back and I read the text again, and guess what? Jesus labels the people too, right? In the text, Jesus makes it clear, the people who walk by are the people that you expect to be able to make a difference in the life of the person, right? So the priest, he talks about a priest walking by. That was the guy who held some authority in the community, not only for the church, but knew Jewish law as well. Ensures that all is in order, kind of the gatekeeper. Oftentimes the musicians were Levites, and they kind of kept things in order, and I'm sure they were busy planning services, and he kept walking by as well. And then a Samaritan, the last person in the world that you would think would stop, is the one who stops and helps the man. Jesus puts labels on these people. Why? Because I think Jesus knew we are labeled, and we are labelers. We are labeled, and we are labelers. He makes an obvious point, and perhaps that's what the Latter-day Saints were doing with this video. By the way, the Latter-day Saints have some pretty amazing videos. Perhaps they were just trying to make it clear that in this world today where we label everybody, we have expectations of particular people, or we put labels on people. And we think it's going to go a particular way, but perhaps it goes a different way. The truth is in the end, it was a woman who clearly is a refugee, a person of color, is the one who remembers her own one who's in need. But when you think about today's culture, she pauses to care for the one who may very well, if in a different position, say to her, you need to go home. You need to go back to where you came from. Never even enters her mind, right? She clearly steps in and does the right thing. She does the right thing for the one who most likely might think that she doesn't belong in the neighborhood. We know who belongs in our neighborhoods, right? Just like Jesus knew that the priest knew who belonged in the neighborhood, and the Levite and the Samaritan knew where they belonged, we do the exact same thing. We do it through our labels as well. We do it through what we wear, through the accents we have, and by the way people look. We are no different than the people in this story. Yes, and I'm talking about all labels. We wear Calvin and Gucci. We drive Audi and old beaten down car. We are just label people. We're a labeled culture. It's part of who we are. We are labeled and we are labelers. Rumor has it there's been something going on TV this past week. I don't know what it was, but rumor has it took over the airways. It took over our dinner conversation last night. And rumor has it that this is such a vote or a situation where the vote was 49 to 51. How about that? What does that say about our nation? And what does it say about us, all right? What if we came in here today as if we were part of the vote with whatever color we would choose? Personally, I'd choose purple. But, if you chose blue or you chose red or purple, how would that impact your conversation over your donuts? How would that impact us? See, as the church, I think it's important for us to name that because we have to figure out how to talk to each other right here. Blue, red, purple, whatever color it is. We have to be able to recognize a name that we are labeled, and we are labelers. And we must, as individuals, find a way to get back to the gospel text, which is, Jesus knows we're going to have a hard time with this, and that's why we have to be heart-filled superheroes. That is exactly why we have to be heart-filled superheroes. I love that he labels, because it's so true. It's just our human nature. It's just part of being this conditional world. It's who we are. And we all come here today with strong feelings about particular things. We all do. But what's important to us is that those feelings are built not on what our opinion is, but what our heart says. And today, as a labeled labeler, I come like John Wesley said this, but we can all love alike. I don't know about you, but that's a label that I would like to hold. You know, she doesn't always agree with me, but I know she loves me. And quite frankly, I'm not really sure that that's how the world experiences me. Jesus reminds me in this text today that yes, I have opinions. And if those opinions are greater than my heart, then I got a problem. What I need to figure out how to do is to share in community with others and find a way to love others no matter what labels they wear and move forth in life in such ways. Fred Rogers was actually a Presbyterian minister prior to becoming Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, the Reverend Dr. Mr. Rogers. I love that. And what's interesting to me is as a pastor, he most likely in a Presbyterian church is a reminder to the pastor and to the community that the pastor's responsibility is to take their own personality off and put on the personality of God. I just thought about it. If God has a personality like mine, wow! Anyway, but you're supposed to take it off, take off your own individuality, put on the gospel, put on what you believe that God, the message that God is giving to you, and to put on that robe as a reminder that you're a representative of God. Look at how Mr. Rogers does that in his neighborhood. He doesn't put on a robe, right? He puts on a sweater, and he puts on some tennis shoes. And he says to kids, I'm going to meet you right here. I'm going to meet you right here. I'm going to share in a conversation with you that will make adults uncomfortable. I'm going to talk about feelings through odd little puppets that's going to freak your parents out. But guess what? It works. I'm going to meet you where you are. One of the greatest lessons that we get from Mr. Rogers is it's time for us to put on our sweaters, the red ones, the blue ones, the purple ones, and to meet each other where we are, to listen to pain, to listen to conflict, to live in division, and to ask God for direction. Mr. Rogers teaches us in the climate today to say with heart, won't you be my neighbor? No matter what aisle you're sitting on, no matter what fence you have put into place, the question that Jesus gives us to seek to answer is, won't you be my neighbor? Powerful, isn't it? Neighborhoods, fascinating things in this country we live in, these neighborhood things. A neighborhood started initially in the early times, right? The people who lived in the country lived miles and miles and miles away from each other. They were mostly farmers. bees. They did different, oh, Lord, have mercy on my soul. Um, we only made it to the quilting bees. They were miles apart from one another. And yet they still found ways to be community. When we built these urban places, right, communities, and I grew up in one of these communities, what's interesting is in the cities, we ended up building our communities with the people who looked like us, right? That's why we have Little Italy, and that's why we have Chinatown in some of the larger cities. That's why in Indianapolis, if you look it up, oftentimes these great festivals they have during the summers, the Greek festival was built around a neighborhood that was primarily Greek. The Italian festival, that side of town was really Italian. We gathered with people that we recognized as our own people. Then these baby boomers came around, right? And when the baby boomers came around, they wanted to live out their parents' dream of having a piece of something in this country. So they moved to these places called the suburbs, right? And not only did they get their that kind of look like this. And that's how we built our neighborhood, with these fences. Well, in today's world, we've taken it a step farther, haven't we? This fence doesn't have enough privacy for me. I have a privacy fence. My privacy fence is big and tall, so I can be my neighbor. Right? We have jacked this up, friends. We suburban people have messed this up. Jesus didn't want fences. Mr. Roger didn't want fences. But we keep building our fences to keep our scary dogs in and to keep our neighbors out. The time has come for the likes of you and me, this divided nation, to find a way to keep moving these fences down and to find a way to continue to seek to transform the world with vulnerable hearts